that you don't want people to use or anything like that?
Oh, hell no. We're past.
Okay, making sure.
Bacon doesn't care.
No. Nope. All right, we are live. Welcome back to Bacon Bits. It's the first one we've had in, what did you say, Daddy Warpig? Couple months?
Couple months, yeah.
Couple months ever since Notch punched me around a little bit there. I'd come back on. I took I took 10 to count the 10 before that got out of control. Bacon has a temper. So we welcome Oliver Campbell back. Oliver, I did chat with you once before on, I can't remember the name of the stream though.
It's been some time.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. We had a good time about it though. There was a word going around that was considered racist back then, and we laughed about it. I think the host was pissed drunk, if I don't right, like Mornblade or something. I think it was.
Must
Oh,
have.
yeah.
And we have Professor back in his odd job hat. Welcome, Professor.
Hey, great to be on again. But what happened with you and Notch? I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, all right. I'll just get that out of the way quick, I guess, because I'm getting DMs about it anyway. Everyone's wants to know because I did kind of storm off and not do another show. And it's not a big deal, so hopefully everyone who hears the story can handle it like adults and not run over there and say, "Hey, Notch, this nobody who you can crush like a bug is talking shit about you on a stream," because that's not what this is. No, there's no ongoing feud. I still like the guy's tweets. I think he's interesting, and I only had brief interactions with him, so let's not, I don't want to make more of it than it is. But I was gonna have Grums on the show. I'm gonna try. I'll try to do this as quick as I can. I was gonna have Grums on the show. I had it planned for a while. Notch heard about it. He tweeted at me. He wanted the link to the show. So and then he started following me. So come the day of the show, I tweeted him the link, and I can't remember how I worded the tweet, but I started getting DMs from people who said that it was misleading. That it sounded like Notch was going to be on the show, and not just wanted, not that he wanted to listen. So I went back to clarify. I tweeted at him again. I said, just to be clear, it's Grums that's on the show, not Notch, and hope that clears that up. But when I did, for some reason he took exception to it, and he answered back, and he said, it feels kind of dirty. You're using me to pump up your show. And which I didn't understand. So I answered him back. I'm like, look, I'm just clarifying an old tweet that just made it sound like you were going to be on the show. So in fact, I'm actually trying to do the opposite of that. And he said, well, you put the period in front of my name. It just feels dirty. And I'm like, well, I put the period there because if I didn't, nobody would have seen the tweet that I directed at you, and all the people who needed clarification would not have gotten it. So it just kind of made sense. And then I sent him a direct message, and I'm like, look, I do this show for free, man. I do it for fun. I'm not trying to use you for PR. I don't make any money on this thing. So, and then Grums got nervous, and he said, look, I'm going to back out. Notch just slapped us in front of 3.5 million people.
Whoa.
So I said, look, the show's canceled. And then Notch tweets back at me, oh, no, why? So I answered and I said, look, I have a strict rule. I only get pushed around in front of 4 million people once a week. It's just a strict rule I have, so I'm out. Grums is out. I'm going to delete all the tweets that mentioned you, and that's going to be the end of this. And so he unfollowed me, and that was the end of it. So it didn't turn into anything, but I was a little mad about it because it seemed unnecessary to me, and I guess maybe sometimes people forget. I mean, you're sitting in front of your keyboard, maybe you don't realize, hey, I've got 4 million sycophant followers, then maybe I shouldn't start something here that could get someone dogpiled. But he didn't, and like I said, he scared Grums. I don't blame Grums one bit, and I'm really not even all that mad about it now. I was in the moment. I was a little heated because like I said, I thought it was unnecessary, and I didn't really think I did anything wrong. I guess if I breached some sort of bizarre etiquette that I didn't know about, maybe I could see it. But I don't know. I felt like it was an overreaction. I got mad, so. I figured, after the show was canceled, I was like, this just isn't. I was just doing this for fun, and now I'm just aggravated. So maybe I'm just going to take some time off. So that's what I did.
Okay.
That's the story in a nutshell.
Oh yeah, I know that feeling. I think people kind of tend to forget that like I basically do the same thing. Any content I've done or put out there is mostly free, and it's just like I stream constantly on Twitch, whatever. I don't ask anyone for anything. I don't charge people a cent, but people start having these expectations. It's like, well, wait a minute, this isn't any kind of paid service. I'm not generating a dime off of it, and this is getting a little weird. And then you're just like, I'm gonna go walk away and take a break from this thing because it's just, as you said, not worth that level of aggravation to not get anything back for it. It's really weird how people just they forget that one small but important detail in that whole mix.
Yeah, it is, and that's, I mean, that's really, that was really what happened, and frankly, I was a little surprised, A, that Notch bothered to ever follow me or even want to hear the show, and then B, I was a little surprised when I seemed to have riled him up, and I'm not even sure how. I mean, I don't know that tweeting at the show, I didn't think anyone was going to say, oh, he tweets to Notch, I better listen to his show. I mean, it seems kind of, I'm in marketing, it would be the last thing I would think to do to pump up the show, but.
The issue that had happened was that Mark Kern had been shadow banned by Twitter.
Yes, that's right.
And so Notch was kind of interested in how, the main developer of World of Warcraft had caught a shadow ban on Twitter. Just last week, or this weekend, a good friend of mine, who's a Hugo-nominated sci-fi author, has caught a shadow ban on Twitter, and he's been banned for 5 days straight now. And they've hammered him. Every shadow ban I've ever heard of has lasted for 1 or 2 days max, and he's been 5 days now. No sign that it's going to let up, and he hasn't done anything. He's the most innocuous person I can imagine. I mean, some of these people, some of these alt-right bomb throwers, you can see, oh yeah, I can see why they got shadow banned. They get like 2 days, and he's got like 5. So he just wanted to listen.
Something though, right, to get shadow banned for 5 days?
He's on my list. I follow him. I've seen everything he's tweeted. He's never tweeted anything at all controversial.
He hasn't. I'll go back and look through his timeline. I didn't see anything. Although I will say this, maybe Grums was onto something, because after I canceled the show, he refused to appear on the show. Instead of the shadow ban, he then got verified. So maybe staying away from me. Perhaps staying away from BaconBits was the best choice.
Oh, geez, I messed up.
Yeah. Professor, big news on Fox today, on CNN also. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, just one last thing. I have seen several shadow bans. Twitter is on a shadow ban tear. They've shadow banned many accounts over the last 3-4 weeks, and all of them are small accounts. They are shadow banning tiny accounts. If you have less than 1,000 followers, they will shadow ban you at the drop of a hat. Tweeting at Jack, if you at Jack for just about anything, they will throw a shadow ban at you. But if you have a big account, if you have a lot of followers, they are much less likely to shadow ban you. So just be aware.
That guy, Ouija, I think his name is, caught a shadow ban. I saw him throwing some. He was throwing some haymakers at Jack. Just maybe 2 of them. They didn't have any swear words. They were fairly innocuous. Just, hey, knock it off with what you're doing. And all of a sudden, he dropped out of my. I couldn't even see him in the list. I had to go to his timeline. He was adding me.
Yeah.
And I'd see the notification come up. I'd go to look for it. It would be gone. I go to the list which he's on. I have a list called Must Reads, which you all 3 of you are on it, and Brian is also on it, and and so I went to the list. He was gone from there. So it was clearly some sort of shadow ban. It lasted about 48 hours. Then it was gone. So I don't know how the hell I haven't caught one. I really don't.
So just be aware. If you have a smaller account, if you are not followed by a lot of people, Twitter is really stepping up the harassment of small accounts.
Yeah, they are. I tell you what, I went after Sally Cohn with reckless abandon for about 2 weeks, too, and I didn't hear. DeRay finally blocked me, but Sally Cohn still hasn't done it yet. So after that AK-15 tweet or whatever she put out, oh, man. She's just a nitwit. But so what I wanted to say, Professor, was I looked, before we come on the show, what I normally do is I'll comb through some news websites, right, and try to see what's number one, what's above the fold. And so the newest poll shows Trump now down enough that Hillary's outside the margin of error. So depending on the poll, you're looking at 7 to 10 point Hillary in the lead on most of these polls. And of course, below the fold is we paid $400 million to Iran. Obama issued 240 pardons today, shattering the record, and including a receiver in the NFL, Demaryius Thomas, had both his mother and grandmother pardoned in the same block of pardons. But so there's the poll, and they look. I mean, even if you're a Trump fan, you got to admit the guy's had a rough week. And I bring this up because I want Oliver's take on this, because I find something interesting happening in my own thinking on these politically, and that is this. Part of me wishes that Donald Trump had a filter, that he was able to rein it in and just not say whatever pops into his mind. But on the other hand, what we all hate, what I hate about politicians, what I've long hated about politicians, is the impression that they look at these speeches that someone wrote and then focus grouped, and then they put their fingers in the wind, and then they carefully recite these speeches. They never get off message, and you never actually get down to the real what's on your mind politicians. So I'm kind of conflicted with wishing he had a filter, but also thinking that a filter is what I hated in the first place and why he even became popular. So do you see Oliver, do you get the contradiction there?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and this whole thing that you're describing is also, in my opinion, like just as a journalist, I think that's part of one of the problems that went all the way back towards the start of Gamergate, and just kind of generally plagues the social media sphere in general. It's like the whole purpose. There's somebody who goes to college and gets educated on this subject and is paid specifically to handle public relations and to be the filter for corporations or particularly big celebrities and different things like that. That's their whole job, is basically, it's 24/7 damage control. It's to maximize good impressions and minimize bad ones. And Donald Trump does need a filter. Just because it's exactly as you said, he does say whatever comes to mind. Now, it's great that people are able to connect and identify with this guy who sounds like they do, right? People
Right.
love that. But at the end of the day, all it takes is one wrong slip of the tongue or one wrong word used when a different one should have been used to give a completely different context. And now you've got, well, essentially a giant clusterfuck on your hands.
Exactly.
And then you end up chasing that down for 2 weeks or whatever. And to draw the comparison to Gamergate and game industry and all this other stuff, the whole problem is that nobody seems to be utilizing any of their PR filters or any of that. And you've got but you've got a great many employees running amok on social media representing their companies and just saying some of the craziest, wildest shit you can imagine. And then they're surprised when suddenly a boss comes down on them and goes, "Hey, you can't be saying that shit. You know, you're representing us. What the fuck are you doing, man?"
Yeah.
And then they start acting all shy and coy, and it's like, wait a minute, you don't get to sit there and say, "Oh, I'm a professional, I've been in this industry for 10, 15, 20 years or whatever," and then not know those things. I mean, hell, here's the point. The big point to be made is that right before we went live, I said, "Is there anything that you don't want me to say? Like, if you don't want me to swear, don't use these particular cuss words or whatever." I was going to do that because it's not my show. It's not my space. I don't know what your audience is like. And so I'm like, well, I got to make sure I just don't, fly off the handle with a random fuck just out of nowhere. Like, "Yeah, everybody get killed, kiss my ass," or whatever. You can't say that everywhere. It's the same kind of filter as in the difference between what you say at home and what you say at church, isn't it? That's really what it is. Like,
Yeah, I get
in
you.
your home, you say whatever you want, but when you go to church, even if you're not a religious person, you kind of tend to stay your tongue in a certain way, and you can think of better ways to say stuff. That's all.
Right. Like today is a good example of what you just said with Gamergate and the devs not going through a filter, the PR filter, which they used to. It used to be, if you wanted to say something publicly and you represented a company, you ran it through, a department, a marketing department, a PR department. Now with Twitter and social media, they just kind of run their mouths, and even though in their profiles sometimes it will say who they work for, it also just because they say it doesn't represent the views of the company. Like, if enough devs are left leaning and they say our views don't represent the views of the company, and you can look and say, well, 50 of you are leftists and there's 50 devs, so doesn't that kind of mean you do represent the views of the company? You're all leftists, right? So you had two devs today that were going at it on Twitter, right? And I saw you tweeting about it, Oliver. The guy from BioWare and something about the AUG Lives Matter.
Yeah, from Eidos, Montreal. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe fill us in on that story a little bit, and if you know it.
Well, I mean, just to give people the basic rundown, is that the Deus Ex team, for part of their marketing for upcoming Mankind Divided, which is going to basically kind of cover the schism between the haves and the have-nots when it comes to bionic parts and things like that. And obviously playing off of what's being currently talked about in the social space and politically and all that stuff, they part of the art has "Aug Lives Matter," like, and you've got a developer from BioWare getting very critical about that, and he's just kind of getting all up in arms and basically said that the Deus Ex team is appropriating black people's struggles, and they're just doing it for marketing, and just goes on a tangent about this thing. And I guess my general look at it is that all fiction has always done this in the history of ever. I mean, if we're going to go to this extreme, let's go all the way, because, I mean, we certainly haven't seen anyone saying that about, oh, I don't know, every Civil War game, every World War One game, every World War Two game. Okay, well, a bunch of people died in that struggle. Tons of people, 6 million people of, Jewish descent ended up getting killed, or even people who just sympathize with them during World War II, but nobody pitches a fit when somebody makes a World War II game. It's when we sit down and we look at films, we look at books, we look at games, they try to take the content and then they try to create context for that so that people can quickly grasp an idea. Right. And that's all that they do. And when they're just taking a current event and going, okay, if you understand what's happening here, then you're going to get this too. Like, that's the way you do it. That's how you make a connection with an audience, so that they go, oh, okay, so there's some high tensions going on. Like, that's the first thing that you can pick up immediately, just looking at the image and knowing nothing else about the game, if you've been paying attention to current events. But I think it's really funny that you've got one content creator over here now telling another content creator what they can or cannot create content about, and also trying to police who can create that content and who can't.
Also, a BioWare developer trying to tell someone else to take politics out of their games. You've got to be kidding.
Right. It's just like it's a complete mind screw. Just realizing that, wait a minute, BioWare, who spends a lot of time dealing with the in and out politics of just human beings, or just people, I should say, in general, because, the Star Wars games, and then they're trying to tell somebody else, oh, well, no, you can't do that. It's like, no, maybe you need to stay in your own lane, shut up, and worry about your own games.
Right.
Because you've got enough of a PR disaster on your hands as is.
Warpig, you're awfully quiet. You must have something to say on this.
Sure. I want to make a point about Trump. Actually, I want to make a point about BioWare real quick. I predict that Andromeda is going to be a bomb, the likes of which we've seldom seen, and I think BioWare knows it because they shut down their user forums prior to Andromeda coming out. That's my prediction, based nothing more on them shutting down their user forums so people can't bitch at them. So if I'm wrong, you can come back and make fun of me, but I predict it's going to be a bomb. I predict that that's why, is because they shut down their user forums so they didn't have to hear people complain about it. But on the subject of Trump, here's what happened. At one point, Republicans came to the realization that they faced a media that was 100% hostile to them, that would take anything and everything that they said out of context and twist it around and use it to stab them in the back and make it seem like everything but what they actually were. So they became 100% controlled in everything that they said, so that they could give the enemy no leverage. They could give the enemy nothing to take out of context. That worked only so long as they actually were what their base wanted to elect. But as soon as that became the norm, immediately what you had happen was a bunch of assholes who were not what the base wanted to elect, but were lying to the base, and they were, as soon as they got in office, turned around and stabbed the base in the back again and again and again. And I'm talking about people like Mitch McConnell. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Slip of the tongue. Mitch McConnell. And that has happened for so long that they take people who are more or less sincere, who use that style of speaking, and simply assume they're insincere because that style of speaking has been completely discredited. So Donald Trump comes along, he does not use that style of speaking, and people latched onto it immediately because at the very least He's not lying to them, and whether it's true or not, they assume that style of speaking is somebody lying to them. So,
Yes.
the problem is this. Donald Trump isn't Ronald Reagan. I'm not talking about Ronald Reagan's values, and I'm not talking about Ronald Reagan being a conservative. Donald Trump is not intellectually organized. He is intellectually lazy. After he was governor of California, Ronald Reagan spent about 20 years doing a talk show where he worked out his philosophy of governance, his philosophy of conservatism, his philosophy of why government intervention in various aspects of the economy didn't work, collecting anecdotes and examples from around the world, from America. And so he could sit down and give a completely spontaneous talk and be 100% true to himself and be completely honest, just like Donald Trump does, but he would never say anything embarrassing because he knew exactly what he wanted to say, and he could stay, quote-unquote, on message without being robotic, without being slick or artificial or focus grouping everything, because he was completely intellectually coherent. He was hardworking. He had learned everything. He had worked everything out philosophically. He was one of the hardest working philosophers of conservatism that we've ever seen, and almost nobody else has ever done that. They've just taken ideas developed by him and developed by Rush Limbaugh and developed by other conservatives, and if they believe them, maybe they believe them, or they just hand them out to other people. They don't go through the hard work of developing them themselves, and so they don't really necessarily believe them all the way to their core. They don't even necessarily know why they're right, and when they're challenged on them, they don't really hold to them in office. They quickly fall into believing whatever the people around them believe, whatever the other senators believe. And that's why you see so many people evolving leftward when they get into office. Donald Trump is not intellectually rigorous. He's kind of intellectually lazy because he hasn't taken the time to develop his thought. But here's the third stage of that problem. It doesn't matter anymore. It's too late. He's not going to change in the next 100 days. He's going to be who he is right now for the next 100 days, and the election is going to be won or lost on who Donald Trump is right now.
And that's interesting because, and I know, this is anecdotal evidence, but I know people, I have several liberal friends, and some of them are voting Trump, and the reason they are is, this is a two-parter for you. The reason they are is because they always say to me, well, I might not always like who he is, I might not always like who he says, but at least I know it's an honest, sort of spontaneous thought. I know who the guy is, I know how he feels, I don't feel like I'm being lied to, and if you want someone who says what they actually think all the time so that you know who you're voting for, then you have to take the good with the bad. I mean, they're not always going to like what they say, so that's just a realization as a Trump voter that I'll have to live with. And the other people who are on the fence, they say to me now, if he changes who he is just to get elected, I will probably lose respect for him, and he probably won't get my support. He went into this campaign saying this is who I am and I'll speak my mind, and now if he starts to filter and muzzle up based on the advice of some campaign managers, they would look at that unfavorably. So I think he might have, it's almost like he painted himself into a corner here. Oliver?
I think that I don't think it's about changing what he's saying, but there are ways to go about saying it. Like, okay, let's go back to the one thing that's gotten memed on really, really, really hard, right? Talk about we're going to build the wall and we're going to make Mexico pay for it, right? Okay, so people just lose their minds over that one. And he's just saying things very plainly. He didn't sit down and go, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to sit down and we're going to strengthen the borders of our nation, and we're going to make people go through a proper process in order to become legal citizens of the United States of America. Look, the fact of the matter is that the average education level of most United States citizens, it's not high school level, I think, what did they say? It's something like seventh grade, I think, if you average it across the board or somewhere like that.
Oh
And
my
so
God, is it that low?
it's like seventh or eighth grade. Like if you just take it as it is now, I'm sure someone is going to be able to cross-check that and get the actual thing, but I know it's not high school graduate level
Yeah, I'm
across the
pretty sure it's
nation.
8th grade.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what
like
the
somewhere
U.S.
around there.
Oh
News and
my
World
God,
Report
that's news to me, and I'm a little stunned.
And I think I saw Scott Adams talking about this, where he was saying, here's the reason why Trump has gathered such a base that he does, is that, like, someone sat down and did an analysis of all the speeches he's given, and they said that he basically uses a vocabulary that a fifth grader could follow. And he talks about complex ideas incredibly simply, and so people know that that's what he's saying. He's saying something more complex than what it is, but he's taken it and he's boiled it down purely to the absolute basics. Like, that's what many people need. And I believe that they feel that he is more trustworthy because, first off, they can understand what the hell the man's saying. Just right
Right.
off the top of the head, I know what you just said. Okay, I like this thing and I agree with that. I think what he needs is something that he said his wife actually said this to him, was that you need to start acting a little bit more presidential. And he's like, I am going to take her advice. That didn't mean, oh, you don't get to say what you want. It's there are different ways to say what you want and also get a different result based on those things.
Right.
You can say strengthen the borders. You can say build the wall. You can say uh, kick people out of the country. You can say all those things. They all basically mean the same thing, which is about protecting the integrity of your nation. But one is a lot more upfront hostile than the other, isn't it? Or at least it can be
Yes.
perceived as hostile. And I think that's really what we're looking at here. Especially as someone who's apolitical, like I sit here, I watch what people are doing because I'm not going to get caught, unaware.
Right.
But I don't intend to vote for anyone, period, because I'm like, okay, they're all kind of crazy, but I can see why people are voting for him or people are backing Trump. I see why they're doing that. And just as you said earlier, you said people know what they're getting. If I'm going to get stabbed, right, I'd rather get stabbed in my chest and be able to see who's stabbing me than get stabbed in the back and not even realize where the hell it was coming from.
Yeah. Right.
Like,
I hear
if you have to choose, like, okay.
Hey, Professor. By the way, I keep meaning to throw it back to you, but you're always muted, so I don't know if you're like on the phone or what. I can see the symbol. Just a quick aside, by the way, just in case everyone forgot, because it's been a while since we did a show. I am not seeing the YouTube chat. I have this weird browser hang up going. I still haven't fixed it, where it just sort of crashes the Hangout if I try to look at the YouTube chat. So you can tweet at me, BaconManLives on Twitter, or hit me up, BaconBits6000 at gmail.com. Those I'm able to check right now. I don't know. Warpig usually takes a peek at the chat if anything.
Yeah, it's pretty good. There's 28 people watching right now. A lot of good participation in the chat.
Yeah, we'll get most of our listeners later on. I mean, it's funny. The live listeners are never all that high. I mean, I've seen like 50, I think, when we had Grums. But then you end up getting I don't know what that got, 500 or 600 listens in the following 24 hours. So I don't know. You never know what these are going to do. Warpig.
Sorry, I don't mean to mute. It's just that my house is really noisy and the phone kept ringing. So.
Well, no, I understand. Look, I'm not an expert interviewer, so I'm not used to having 3 people on, and I'm trying to get everybody trying to throw it around to everybody equally. But if
it's fine. I mean, I haven't had Oliver on stream before, so it's great, really great hearing his opinions.
Yeah, he's
so
fun.
excited.
He's a fun guy. Warpig, when you were giving that little rant there about Trump taking the conservative principles.
But I had something to say about Trump.
Do it.
Yeah, I'll be quick because you guys said most of what I was going to say. But I see Trump facing 2 problems because he has no filter. The first problem is the media. We know the media is going to twist what he says. It happened with Romney and his 47% comment. It happened with Romney when he said he wanted to defund PBS, and that became Romney wants to murder Big Bird. The media, the
binder of women.
Yeah, binder full of women. We know we as conservatives know what the candidate meant. In Romney's case, he was saying, look, I I do hire a lot of women. I consider a lot of them for jobs, and somehow that binder full of women got twisted into, oh, he's some kind of perverted, conservative, creepy freak. And really with PBS, again, all he wanted to do was defund PBS because it's public television. He thinks it should be paid for at the state level. But that got twisted into Romney wants to kill Big Bird, and that was the media doing it.
Yep.
And we know the media is going to do that. The controversy with Khan and his Gold Star son that was killed in action, I was surprised that the media twisted it the way they did, because all Trump really said was, I've made sacrifices too. And the media ran with that to say Trump was disrespecting all American soldiers and all veterans, and veteran groups were being really upset about what they thought Trump said. But what Trump really said was, I've made sacrifices too. And it's the media reading in all this negativity into what the candidates say. So because Trump has no filter, and as Daddy Warpig said, he doesn't think about what he's going to say. He blurts things out, and the media runs with it. And we know the media is colluding with the DNC based on DNC leaks. And so Trump needs to be careful about that. But the second thing that I think is kind of unexpected is the GOP establishment helping out the media by denouncing everything Trump says. So with the Khan comment, you had Paul Ryan, John McCain saying, yeah, I would never say that. I repudiate Trump, where they could have backed him up and said, well, no, I don't think that's really what he meant. Here's what he really meant. And that's not happening with the GOP right now. There's this disunity where they're not supporting Trump.
Yeah, there's too much infighting. Yeah.
Let me say this about John McCain specifically. John McCain is a broken person. He was involved in the Keating 5 scandal in the 80s, the big savings and loan crash, and ever since then, John McCain's biggest problem is making John McCain look like he's good and moral and consequential. Everything he does and says is to make John McCain look like a good and moral, consequential person. He does everything he does to make him look like a moral person. It's always virtue signaling. He's always at the forefront of stabbing Republicans in the back.
Nailed
to
it.
give Democrats an edge.
Yes.
And so he was involved in filibustering all the Bush judges. In that Gang of X proposal, he was involved in the amnesty proposal that Marco Rubio got suckered in on. If you remember Chuck Schumer standing behind him smirking, Rubio had just sunk his career. Rubio would have won this primary if he hadn't shot himself in the balls with that maneuver.
Yes.
And McCain was right there with him. And so John McCain was stepping out and doing that because he got so offended because he was bad-mouthing the father of a veteran. I mean, I'm sorry, look, if you're the father of a veteran, that does not place you above criticism, especially when you go out on the stage at a political convention and bad-mouth another presidential candidate.
Right.
And when you wave the Constitution and say, have you read the Constitution? Khan, there was an article posted on Breitbart today where Khan has been a proponent of Sharia supremacy in the West, of putting Sharia law above the Constitution. So I don't know whether Trump has read the Constitution, but I do know that Khan has read the Constitution and wants Sharia law above it.
Yes. But he waves
Is he a member of the Muslim Brotherhood?
Yes.
People
Well, they say that part's the rumor. The part where he wants the Sharia law above the Constitution, he actually wrote.
Wow.
That's who McCain is supporting, is this guy who's shady. He does the Clintons' taxes.
But you notice it was okay when the left attacked Pat Smith's mother, though. There was no outrage there.
Yeah.
That was just fine. The guy from GQ wanted to punch her in the face until she was dead. That was fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's baloney. It is absolute baloney. And that all these Republicans, and I'm talking about I don't even know if I want to name names because I don't care. All of these Republicans who got so offended because he insulted the father of a veteran. I don't care if you're the father of a veteran. He died 12 years ago. That doesn't give you absolute moral authority for the rest of your life. I mean, think about it this way. You've got a son who's a veteran, who went to war, who served 3 tours in Iraq, who came back and lived. No absolute moral authority because your son didn't die. You've got another son who went to basic, who got in a car accident on his way home, so he died in the service. You have absolute moral authority for the rest of your life because you're the parent of a dead soldier? How the hell does this work exactly? I want to know the rules. If these are going to be the rules that I have to follow for the rest of my goddamn life, I want to know what they are.
This is the best rant ever. Like, you made my night. That's it. That's it. He laid it down. That was the best point. Just, if there are going to be rules, I want to know what they are. Don't hold me accountable for some shit, and then don't tell me what those things I'm being held accountable for are. That's it. That really does boil it down, though.
It does. That's perfect. I love Warpig.
It touches so many systems here. It touches, like, pretty much every topic that we have on this show tonight is covered by that exact thing. Many of the political opponents that we're talking about, like, well, just as you said, with the whole thing with Day 6. Oh, is there a rule with this? Or we can't talk about this, but we can talk about this? Who set the rule? What is the rule? How come I'm just finding out now? How come you're climbing all down my throat over this stuff? And watching those things, and I think what's even worse, what really irritates me, is the contradictory enforcement of those rules. Yeah? Like, well, hell, you were just talking about shadow banning on Twitter, right? And it's like, well, wait a minute, is shadow banning a thing that you do? Okay, that's fine, I guess, to a certain extent, but what are the things that will cause that? How long? You know, all these other things, but it's just a series of question marks in the air, and nobody knows what the hell is going on, and nobody's talking. But all you know is that you are being held accountable and judged for a standard of which you are not even aware of.
Yes. And you know what? Here's the funny thing. What Warpig was saying there is I mean, it's absolutely true, but the rules also keep changing. So you have a guy like McCain who, for the longest time, they say gets this moral authority because he was a POW. So he is untouchable. He's imputable. You can't insult him. You can barely disagree with him without someone screaming at you. And one of the things I remember most about when Trump was coming to power was that he said, and all right, who among us didn't laugh when he said this? He said something like, how smart can he be? He got captured. I prefer guys that don't get captured. So I laughed, and I thought, well, geez, I remember actually thinking, if he thinks it's okay that he can get away with going after McCain, who's been some sort of leftist golden goose for years now, where you can't say anything about him, you can't besmirch his character, and you can't disagree with him. If he thinks the gloves are off and he can say that to McCain, I thought, well, maybe he does have some balls. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I kind of started to come around and like him. Because what Warpig said about McCain, and also Warpig, I like having you on the show because nobody else remembers the 80s. It's me and you, man.
I remember the 80s.
Oh, you do? All right.
I'm old.
I thought you were a lot younger than that.
Oh, no. I'm an old man.
Oh, I like it.
I will say this about McCain. Whatever has happened since the Keating 5 scandal, during the Vietnam War, he was legitimately a hero. You know, during his presidential campaign, the Democrats made fun of him because he couldn't send emails. Well, the reason why he couldn't send emails, you cocksuckers, is because they smashed his hands so bad, his bones are so broken, his fingers literally can't type on a keyboard. And you're going to make fun of him because he can't send emails? Screw you.
Right. Flash forward 40 years into supporting Hillary, who has even bigger email problems.
Yeah. I mean, it's whatever he's done since the Keating 5 scandal, he was a hero to survive what he did in Vietnam. He didn't break. He didn't give up U.S. secrets. That makes him a hero then, but where he's gone since then, his involvement in the Keating scandal was not a good thing, and he's trying to make it up. I think he's trying to get around his conscience that bothers him by doing these big public things, and he just needs to go to God and get it off his conscience instead of doing bad shit in public.
Yeah, I got to agree with that. Well, before we leave the Trump talk, let me just point out one more time, too, that the polls that everyone's dancing about today with Hillary are most likely still include the convention bounce. Once both parties get, you could run your dog and you're going to get a convention bounce. It's unavoidable, and if she loses her bounce entirely, which was roughly around 5 points, she's going to slink right back into the margin of error that she was in a month ago. So I don't think it's time to bury Trump or celebrate Clinton just yet. I still think it's premature, but go ahead.
I got one more thing I wanted to talk about, because I think it's an interesting contrast between President Obama's tactics and a tactic that was working for Trump and a tactic he needs to get back to. And I call it the stray voltage cluster bomb attack.
Okay. Shock and awe.
Now, here's how Obama's White House dealt with things. They called it stray voltage. Some scandal would break that looked really, really bad for them. And so what they would do is they would go out and they would start a scandal that would seem really, really good for them. Like they would announce, and this is just an example, we are proposing to raise the minimum wage to $100. So the first scandal that would happen that week is, oh my gosh, they've been selling guns to illegal aliens. So that's the scandal, right? The very first scandal. And that just doesn't play well. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if people are defending you or not. That just doesn't play well because that just sounds bad. Even if people are defending it on the air, it's always going to make you look bad. So they introduce a new scandal, raising the minimum wage to $100. Well, what happens is immediately all the conservatives stop talking about selling guns to illegal aliens. Again, that's just an example. I'm making that up. I'm not accusing him of ever doing that. I'm not accusing him of planning on doing that. It's just an example. You go on the air and you have to defend that, but what people hear is, oh, Obama cares about poor people. Oh, Obama wants to raise the minimum wage for poor people. Obama is a warm, loving person who cares about poor people. Even if you've got economists literally having heart attacks across the country because they're screaming about how that's going to destroy the economy and how it's going to drive McDonald's into bankruptcy and how it's going to drive robots into fast food across the country and make sure that teenagers never have jobs for the rest of the country, the rest of history, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's good for Obama because it takes all that stray voltage that was attached to the original scandal of selling guns to illegal aliens and puts it on a scandal that is good for him. So even if people are angry about it, they're angry about something that's good for him. Stray voltage. That's how they handle scandals. It's a deliberate tactic. And if you do a search for stray voltage on Google, you can find this out. This is a real thing. I'm not making this up. This is actually what they call it.
So, essentially, what you're saying here is redirection.
Yes. I'm just using the term that the White House actually uses.
That they use. But essentially that's what it is. It's no different than the basic concept of judo of, well, let me just redirect all this energy in a completely different direction, or because people are so fickle, it's really easy to distract them with something else that seems worse, and then they suddenly forget about that other thing.
It's like when the Republicans have a bill, or either side, really, they all do it, right? So they have a bill that the Democrats don't really want to pass. They wind up sticking an amendment in there that says, every orphan in the country gets a loaf of bread, because this is the bill they really want passed. And then when the Republicans won't vote for the bill, they'll say, the Republicans voted down a bill that would have given orphans bread. What is wrong with them? It's a poison pill. That's an old tactic, too.
So what Trump used to do really, really well, and hasn't done this week, but he did it really, really well the first day or the second day of the Democratic National Committee convention, was what I call the stray voltage cluster bomb attack. Now, you know what a cluster bomb is, right?
Yes.
It's a rocket that zooms out, and instead of releasing one explosion, it releases thousands of submunitions with thousands of different explosions. So the very next day, after Hillary Clinton's beginning the DNC, he went out there in Orlando, and he gave a press conference. And in that press conference, he caused 6 different scandals. Maybe 7, I might have lost count.
7 scandals.
7 discrete, different scandals. He offended people 7 discrete, different ways. Trump did. But each of them was favorable to him. Because people were screaming, "It's so offensive! I can't believe he's talking about Hillary Clinton's 30,000 deleted emails!" And all of a sudden, people across the country who'd never heard of it perked up their ears and said, "What? 30,000 deleted emails? What the hell is that about?"
Yep.
Stray voltage cluster bomb. You see, if you're Trump and you're going to spout off random bullshit that's going to piss people off, what you need to do is spout off random bullshit that's going to piss people off that helps you, that focuses on issues that are good for you, and you need to do enough of it that they just can't help but scream about things because there's so much of it that they're screaming about nothing but what helps you. You are occupying all of the media bandwidth. It gives all of your enemies no time to get their issues through. He did it very, very effectively for a long time. He's let up on it this last week. He needs to get back to doing it.
Just as an interside here, just to interject, it's an interside. I think I just had a stroke. Clint Eastwood's the #2 trend on Twitter now because he told, quote, I'm reading from Esquire, so I don't have the whole quote. There's an excerpt here. America's pussy generation needs to just fucking get over it. And apparently, obviously he's got people heading for a safe space with that one. So I just wanted to throw that out because I didn't see it until just now.
Is there any indication of what it need to get over is? I mean, not that I disagree.
Talking about political correctness, and I just happened to read this earlier. It was him and his son. They just came out with both barrels, and they were like, "This shit is stupid. Like, these people need to grow up." I mean, he went full tilt. He didn't filter himself at all. He just laid it out there, and he's like, "It's just we need to be done with this and move on." And it was actually rather impressive. I was rather proud. I was like, look at that. The man with no name just told people where the bullshit and the buckwheat. You know what I mean? Like, wow.
I love Clint Eastwood. He's just the best. He is the best. And he's on, I'm sure if I look at that tag, he's probably getting lambasted by SJWs. But I think, like I've said this before, I think on Twitter, it's such a little echo chamber sometimes that people often think if Twitter people are outraged that the entire, like it's some snapshot of the entire country, everyone must be outraged. Not for, and I just don't think that there's any indication to me that what's trending on Twitter is important to the average man on the street generally. So if he's getting bashed on there, I'll just not read the tag, but I still think most people agree with him.
That's one thing that I've also learned over the course of the past couple of years is that what people are talking about on Twitter is by no means an indication, not even close to what the general public is thinking about or what they believe in or whatever. Now, it may help direct that conversation. Eventually, you'll start to see people talking about those things, but it's definitely not everyone, not even close, not even a major percentage.
And it's actually kind of fascinating too, because when you had like the DNC leaks, right? The first time I saw it was starting to climb up the Twitter trends, and I went and I looked. So in that case, I think Twitter beat the mainstream coverage to it, and I saw it there first. It's unusual, but I did. So I mean, it is a little. It's pretty interesting.
Twitter usually beats news coverage, but the good thing about Twitter is if you can get out in front of something on Twitter and prove that whatever left-wing spin is coming is wrong, then there's a good chance you can quash it. If you can't, then there's a good chance it'll get past you and blow up.
Now, they say WikiLeaks says they have another dump coming. I don't know when. I'm not sure what's going on with them, but if they're timing it, the timing seemed like it was for maximum impact, not just for them, but also to kind of hurt Shillery. And if they're trying to time it that way again, I gotta wonder when they're going to release these. I don't think they can wait till an October surprise, but maybe they will.
Yeah, I think the problem with waiting is that, and I brought this up before, people have this sports team mentality where they treat politics like sports, And once they pick a side, like this is, they decide Hillary's in the right, and you know, it doesn't matter what truth you spit out; they just won't believe it. So whatever WikiLeaks has, they need to release quickly.
Yeah, I
And,
agree. I agree.
The
I
only
think
other
they're trying
thing I
to.
wanted to say was,
Yeah.
it was funny. I had myself on mute, and I kept trying to interrupt, and I was wondering why you guys weren't letting me interrupt. Because I was on mute. It's like,
It was
man,
discrimination.
that Bacon and Oliver are so rude. They won't let me talk. But,
That's right, America. The first Asian who can't figure out a computer. Right here on the show.
I know. I think what happened is I unmuted my video instead of my audio. So,
I saw you looking around back there, so I didn't know what you were doing. Well, go ahead. What's your thing? What do you got?
no, I don't think I have a point anymore. I kind of forgot.
Oh, see, you're right. He is getting old, Oliver. You were right. He's getting old.
I want to shill for something. It's not my something. I want to shill for it. It doesn't even cost you money, but if you haven't watched the Clinton Cash movie, it's an hour of your time. If you haven't watched it, you're not really educated on this election.
I'm going to be watching that, but Hillary's America also is out. It's in the theaters. It's a D'Souza film. It's worth an hour and whatever that was, 45 minutes. I think it was an hour 45 minutes. It's definitely worth watching. Right, it does. I will say this as a mini review. It does cover some of the same ground that his America, Imagine a World Without Her covered, but there's a lot of new material in there. He goes into a little greater detail about his time in prison, which was really not prison. It was an in and out. I think on the weekends kind of thing, and it really goes into a history of the Clintons and their financial past. That I don't know. I haven't seen Clinton Cash yet, but so maybe it's doubling up on the same information. But if you haven't seen it, and it really goes into a history of the Democratic Party and how we're not the party of racism claim, which they've been making since the 60s, is absurd. And if you don't know anything about the history of the Democratic Party, it's worth a watch, or if you just want to brush up on some of it. And, I'll say one more thing about this movie. I've shown D'Souza movies to plenty of liberals in my time, and it always amuses me. What always happens is they run for their phones or their tablets while they're watching the movie, furiously trying to find out how he lied, why this facts or that can't be the right facts, that can't be the right guy, and they can never catch him. And believe me, my liberal friends have tried to catch him. So he's extremely well researched, and what he presents to you is the way it is. And if you want to try to undermine it, you can, but you won't be able to. It's definitely worth whatever movies cost in your area. Around here, it's $14.
Okay. Well, I remember what I wanted to say when you were discussing Clint Eastwood, and that is that the media once again twisted what Clint Eastwood said, just like they do Trump, because when I read the original article, all Clint Eastwood really said was, look, a lot of things that you're calling, you being the liberals are calling racist now, weren't racist in my day. So you guys need to get over it.
Okay, all right. I didn't know.
Yeah, but what I forgot what the magazine was. What they reported was Clint Eastwood says, "Get over Trump's racism," and that's not what Eastwood said.
That's a fucking reach if I've ever heard one.
Man, wow. So shady. Jesus. That is a fucking reach. That is unbelievably shady. Oliver, you're a journalist. Do something about this. Will you clean up your industry?
I know. Come on, Oliver. You're the journalist.
I've been trying, but nobody will listen to me. But no, it's exactly that. That's a good point, and that's the thing that's made me probably the craziest over the past 2 years is that no one is asking you, no matter what side you sit on the political spectrum, no matter what you believe, if you've got a basic ethical standard and someone is saying something that you agree with or don't agree with, it's not your job to interpret it, it's not your job to twist that shit. Your job is to say what they said, report it accurately, because if they said some crazy shit, you know what? You don't have to try and twist the truth.
Yes.
Crazy stands on its own. And you'd be like, okay, this guy over here just said this, and everyone's going to be like, are you kidding me? He actually said that? You'd be like, yeah. And those same ethics protect you and make you more trustworthy. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of all this stuff, is just you put it on the table, and the public, surprisingly enough, when given all the correct and true and not slanted information, is surprisingly smart, and they're not going to let themselves get
Despite the eighth
taken on a
grade
ruse
education.
cruise. Right. It just, when you put it out there in an easy, digestible format, they're going to look at it and they're going to go, huh, ain't that something? I mean, I like to think of it as something similar with kids. I talk about how I'm raising my niece and how much I've learned over just the past 5 years of watching her go from being a small adolescent to now a teenager. And kids are not stupid. They lack experience is what they lack, but they're very, very smart, and they can put together some pretty complex ideas very, very fast if they've got the proper guidance. And the general public is the same way. If you give them all the information that they need to dissect a thing or to understand a thing, they will. And so when you're dealing with people who are less journalist and more propagandist pushing a point of view, they specialize in disinformation.
Yes,
That
I
is,
agree.
that is specifically the idea of leaving out critical things in order to shape or change your opinion that, if you had the correct information, your opinion would be completely damn different. Let's use some current stuff like this whole Ghostbusters thing, right? The fact of the matter is this: like, I don't work in Hollywood, I don't work in the film industry, but I understand how it works because that's within my interest and career range, understanding writing and things like that. So I got a pretty good idea.
We're
As
getting a
it
little
stands,
echo. I think we're getting an echo here.
I hear that echo. I'm not sure who that's from. Okay, there it goes.
Oh, that's Prof.
Um,
Damned Asians and the technology.
But one thing is true is that that movie has flopped, and it hasn't just kind of flopped. It's flopped incredibly hard.
Yes.
They've not even come close to making back what was spent on that. Even when they go, okay, the budget for shooting the film was 144 million. Oh, they just broke even. Right, but you've completely forgot about all the advertisement. So whatever ads you were showing on TV, how much they had to pay to YouTube to get those ads to show up in between videos. They're not factoring in the merchandise that has come out. You got to think about all the cross promotions that they have to pay for as well. Like, it racks up, and people are saying that it was supposed to be somewhere around 300 million just in advertising alone. And Paul Feig was saying that they got to make all told 500 million.
Yeah.
That thing it's a walking trash fire. Just like you're watching it go down the street, and it's one of the most amazing things you've ever seen. And the disturbing amounts of denial of whether or not the product is successful. No, the product is not successful.
And I'm glad you're bringing this up, Oliver. I'm really glad, because I was going to bring up in the next segment how I think, instead of Gamergate now, I want to start with Filmgate, because these left-wing film critics are just driving me insane. They're every bit as unethical and bought and paid for as game journalists, probably more so.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of SJW nonsense in their reviews, in their movie reviews, has reached a critical mass. I only followed one critic, for example, on Twitter, only one, and it was Harry Knowles, and he from AintItCoolNews.com. I usually trusted his opinion. I usually thought he was pretty good, despite the fact that a lot of his former fans say he's bought and paid for because he gets the free video, the movie tours, and he was sort of a nobody that came out of internet fame to rise to the standard of a critic. But he's been tweeting nonstop SJW stuff lately, lots of pro-Hillary stuff. His reviews are full of it, and so I'm done with him. And I just really think that film journalism now bears closer examination, at least as close as games journalism did 2 years ago. Anyone agree with me?
I think the Ghostbusters was the first time I've ever seen widespread, full-on, obvious social justice malfeasance as far as reviewing a movie, where it was just immediately obvious that people were lying about whether or not they thought a movie was going to be enjoyable because of the politics of a movie, not what was actually in the movie.
Well, reviewing it is one thing, and then denying that it's flaming out. Well, it's flaming out. I mean,
Yeah.
they're playing they're playing music on the deck of the Titanic as it goes down. And then you go look at the reviews for Suicide Squad. They're full of the code words, the SJW code words. There's all kinds of misogyny, racism, male gaze, all of that kind of stuff. Go look at D'Souza's movie on Rotten Tomatoes. 4% from critics, 86% from audiences. A lot of these movies fall into a similar pattern where the critics are crushing them, but the fans are liking them. And why? Because the critics are moving farther left, and all the centered people are just like, yeah, it was entertaining. I'm good with it. So you don't think haven't noticed in the last couple of years a hard left turn in films journalists?
Well, not only that, but just a brief aside, but this exact thing, this series of behaviors, is why I started streaming on Twitch. Going on 2 years ago. Here come December, why I started doing that with new releases on games, because I was like, these people can't even sit down and get an honest game review anymore before they go and spend their money. And I was like, wait a minute, I'll just get the new stuff like day one, second it launches, like the instant it's available, I'll start streaming it, and that way people can get an honest to God opinion and also assess themselves and see just what the hell we're walking into. And people have a huge appreciation for that. I've seen people try to criticize when I sit down and I give my assessment of a game, for example. And I'm just like, you really should avoid this. This isn't worth your money. Or I'll say, oh, this was really, really great, and we really had a good time with it. And I've seen people try to climb down my throat. And I think the interesting dynamic that came from that is that more often than not, my Twitch viewers will show up and go, no, I sat there and watched him play this, and exactly what he said happened is what happened. We're just as mystified as this thing, and then people suddenly get very quiet. So I tried to figure out why is this happening? Why am I getting such a unique response? And I realized this entire time we've always had the audience and the critic operating in two separate vacuums from each other. Mm-hmm. Now, all I'm doing is just mashing it together, and we're all seeing and perceiving and analyzing the same info at the exact same time, and we're more able to come to a closer consensus opinion. Not that we're going to 100% agree, but the truth is closer than what it has been in the past. Just because, just as you're saying, and even the audience is saying right now, you've got journalists or reviewers that get bought off with swag or money or parties or just lavished and all that, basically pampered to shit to make sure that their opinion is as high as possible. And, they bash whatever other product is coming around the corner as hard as possible. The audience doesn't have that. They don't. The only thing they have is whatever money they spent on a thing, and if they feel like they got cheated out of their $5, $10, $15, $20, $60, they're going to let you know, and they're going to let you know real damn hard.
For the record, I would like to be biased for a little while. I've never gotten a review copy of anything, so if anybody wants to bias me, feel free.
I thought Oliver brought up a really great point. I mean, the consumer is the one spending their money. So these SJWs can try to spin movies into being the greatest things ever, but the market will speak. And if the film doesn't make money, I think the studio executives will get the message. Something's going wrong with these reviews. People aren't being truthful. We have to stop making these movies with SJW-laden themes.
Prof, I want to talk to you about ComicCon, but your audio sounds a little messed up.
Oh, sorry.
Is that me? Does everyone hear his audio sounding like that?
I heard as well. Chopping the internet.
Am I choppy?
Yeah, you're a little choppy.
I'm afraid to put on the headsets with a microphone because sometimes that cuts out all the audio. But I'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah, that's not sounding great. I want to talk to you about your Comic-Con experience.
Okay.
While he's doing that, Warpig, the other day, it's funny, I was in Hillary's America when whatever happened. Kathy Young jumped on one of our tweets and
if things go badly, you might be in Hillary's America for 4 years. So.
Yeah, I know. Oh my God. So I came out and I had like 40 notifications, and I thought, Jesus, I'm not going to read through all those. I didn't know if she was mad at you or me, but I knew she jumped on one of us. It was you though, right?
Yeah, I tweeted out something that was really kind of inflammatory, like I cared, but.
I stopped following her a while ago. She seems a little bit. She seems to have taken a left turn herself.
Wait, who are we talking about?
Kathy Young.
Oh yeah, she stopped following me too. I don't know why.
Because she was only a conservative. Well, there was a little bit of fame in it, I think, when Gamergate was around. She tweets a lot of left-wing stuff.
I don't think she's ever been a conservative. I think she's a libertarian. I don't think she's ever been a
A
conservative.
true libertarian, or one of those people who doesn't like to admit they're liberal, but they really are.
I don't know. She writes for Reason. That's
Well, Warpig had tweeted something about Bill Clinton being a rapist, right? And
yes, I did.
she took an issue with it, and my point was that he's only holding Bill Clinton to the same standards that Hillary Clinton called for just 2 months ago. And by her own standards, then he's a rapist, right? So I thought that was going to be the end of it, but it went on for a while, and I don't know, it was weird. I guess somebody else must have jumped in. I couldn't get through all the notifications. On my computer I could, but I was mobile, I was on my phone, and I just can't get through 30 or 40 notifications when I'm on the phone. It just drives me nuts trying. So I didn't see all the points that were made, Warpig. So if I didn't back you up right that moment or adequately, it's because I probably just couldn't get through the conversation to find out where it went wrong.
Well, there were lots of people who got in and got upset. She actually wasn't upset. She was really, really polite about the whole thing. There was other people who were really, really angry about it and really ranty about it, and I'm just like, dude, you got to understand that I'm really just here to, let's see, in the top 3 reasons for me to be on Twitter right now at all are, number 1, help people I know if they need help. Number 2, entertain people. Number 3, inform people. And arguing isn't on the list.
Yeah, I was going to say, I must be getting more important because I'm getting some weak sauce trolls coming in. I'm getting like the lower tier trolls. I mean, they're really bad. The ones that just swing in and yell retard at me or something, and then that's it. They don't say anything else. So I don't know. That's low quality trolling. I'm hoping that by next month, maybe having Oliver on will do it. I don't know. I'd like to get some better quality trolls. They're just awful.
So if the conversation isn't doing one of those 3 things, or isn't helping me do one of those 3 things, it's not something that really holds my interest. If I'm arguing with you at all, it's because I kind of respect you or I know you, so it's really a compliment, but it's probably not going to go on for very long.
Right. You know what? I'll Professor or Daddy Warpig, when you leave today, go online. Did you see that picture that liberals are passing around of Ted Cruz hugging a bunch of Hillary supporters? That should really make your night.
Ted Cruz is hugging a bunch of Hispanic kids on a street somewhere. And I have no idea who they are. I have no idea why they took that picture. It looks like a politician being nice to a bunch of teenagers because he's a politician. You know, I mean, I guess the standard is if you're not stabbing them in the face and kicking their bodies into the gutters, then you support Hillary Clinton. But I don't know that that's a really smart standard to apply.
No, that's not my point. My point is that those smarmy little assholes probably ran right to Twitter and bashed Cruz with the same picture. We took a picture with literal Satan, literal Hitler. You know, I'm sure they twisted it somehow. It doesn't pay to be nice to those little college radicals like that. Professor, let me hear a little bit about ComicCon.
You know, it wasn't as good as past years.
All right, your audio's still messed up. What is going on?
Oh, is it still bad?
Yeah, I can.
It's a bandwidth problem. That's the kind of sound you get when the bandwidth is when Google Plus is having problems with the Hangout. It's having problems streaming nicely.
Which is weird because no one's on video, and it's not like I have my usual 1,000 viewers. Oh, I mean 28 viewers.
Maybe someone near his house or at his Wi-Fi is trying to download something or watch something on Netflix. I don't know.
By the way, Oliver, as a new guest, you probably don't know the rules, but I generally demand that the guests bring their own sponsors. So whoever's sponsoring you today, just send the check. I'll show you. I'll tell you where to send it in the DM. Whether it be Coke or whatever. They're doing a segment on the Bears on NFL Live too. I've got it muted behind me. Who does fantasy football here? Anybody? Oliver?
No, I don't actually. I'm a big dork.
All right. I'm going to get by the way, while Professor's sorting out his issues, next week we're going to go back to the well with banned by his publisher, author, Nick Cole. So that'll be next Wednesday at 8. Also, I have a new. There's that.
Go ahead and finish. I've got a story. If the professor still is having problems, I've got a video game related, not political story.
Quick housekeeping. All right, next week is going to be Nick Cole at 8 o'clock. We do have a new movie review up on BaconBitsShow.com that King Ruckus wrote. It's Jason Bourne. I've got a couple in the pipeline. I'd like to write up Witcher Blood and Wine because I honestly, firmly believe that's the best piece of DLC I've ever played. Bang for the buck wise, certainly unbeatable. And I do want to write it up. So look for the Witcher 3 review. The Bourne review is already up. That's baconbitshow.com. Email me with your usual complaints at baconbits6000@gmail.com, and that'll be that. So go ahead, Warpig.
All right, so once upon a time I bought myself Fable 2 as a digital on-demand download on the Xbox 360.
Yes.
And several years later I noticed that I could no longer download it through the store, but I could download it through my download history, and I just didn't quite think anything of it. When I introduced backwards compatibility, I started downloading all my backwards compatible stuff because I went out of my way and bought a 6 terabyte super fast hard drive so I can run everything faster than I could off the internal hard drive. Yes, it's true. If you buy a 6 terabyte external hard drive, you can run stuff faster than you can off the internal hard drive. Trust me, it's the truth.
All right.
So I finally decided that I'd had enough of not being able to install Fable. It just kind of irritated me because the only game I couldn't download. So I went and double-checked. If I look on the website, it's not listed as being bought in the store. I looked on the Xbox 360, it's not listed as being bought in the store. I looked on the Xbox One, it's not listed as being bought in the store, but it is listed as being bought in my download history where I can download it directly to my 360. Now, knowing those facts, what would you think the solution would be, and how long would it be to apply it?
I have no idea.
71 minutes.
The solution is, let's just give him credit for buying this game and let him go. That's it. That's how fast it should be. Oh, you bought the game, but it doesn't say you've bought it? Here, let me give you credit for it. Now you've bought the game, the store thinks it, go download it on your Xbox One. It'll be that simple.
That would be too simple.
Too easy.
Would be too simple. Would be way too easy. It took them 77 minutes.
See, I was right.
Oh my God, Professor, you were close.
I saw his tweet.
Oh.
Okay.
I was on the phone with this poor girl for 77 minutes, and some of the troubleshooting steps she mentioned kind of took me aback, because it's clear the problem is with the store. Absolutely clear the problem is with the store, not with my machinery. She mentioned at one point me needing to plug my Xbox One console directly into the wall and not into my
Yeah, is it on?
So you got the game. Do you like it?
He's like, it's fucking awful.
Yeah.
I've played it through. I played it through all the way at least once. I loaded up that character. I have like 8 million gold on the character.
Oh God, yeah, I forgot that accumulates when you're not online.
Yeah. I loaded it up. It gave me like 1.6 million gold, and then I don't know how long it accumulates, but every like minute or two, I'd get another 160,000 gold. Apparently, I'm the slumlord of whatever that continent is.
Is that what you're playing right now?
No. I'm playing Fallout 3 right now.
Oh, Prof, what are you playing right now?
Dark Souls 3.
Still? My brother closed it out. All the achievements. Closed it out.
Did he?
Yep. Oliver, what are you playing?
A while.
Well, right now I'm actually about to start up on Don't Starve Shipwrecked, since that one I hadn't dropped on the PS4. And speaking of Dark Souls 3, man, I don't know what the hell came over me during that launch week. I went fucking crazy with that game. Like, I was like, I'm gonna beat this shit first week, like with Salt Sanctuary. Which, speaking of which,
I
you picked that up,
remember seeing that you played it like for what, 2 days straight or something?
Well, I did my first run in 40 hours, and then over the course of that week, I got that shit boiled down with no cheats, no exploits, no weird ass hacks, nothing. I had that shit down to a 6-hour run. I was just burning through that shit like
Wow.
crazy. I was impressed. I was like, who is this guy? I don't know him. But it got beautiful. I was like, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna do this. You go to work, come back. This game will be beat. And people were like, holy shit, Madman's done it.
Wow, that's crazy.
Never, nothing on any other Souls game have I played through that fast. Like,
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. It's hard.
I went in there and went fucking nuts. And then basically since that, I just haven't had anything like really grab my attention and hold me into it. And so with Don't Starve Shipwreck launching, I'm pretty excited about that. And also, I'm just now learning about Rebel Galaxy, which to me appears to be Sid Meier's Pirates in Space, and all that shit's fine if you ask me, because I act a damn fool on the high seas, so I can only imagine it would be even better in space.
Now, I'm gonna stick Dark Souls 2 in right after I'm done with Witcher here and see what happens.
Okay.
Knowing that, Oliver and Professor, that I rage quit Dark Souls 1. My brother insists I have to try 2 because I beat Bloodborne. He says I will like 2, so I will try it. If I smash a controller, though, I expect reimbursement from somebody.
You know what? If you haven't done Dark Souls 3, I would recommend 3. If you like Bloodborne, it's the refinements from the reaction times and, of course, the new iframes and all that other stuff. They did a really good job with
I
that.
have to beat 2 because I can't take any more. Every time we're sitting around having a couple of beers, I got to listen to how I'm not a real gamer because I couldn't get through a Dark Souls game. Even though I beat Ghosts and Goblins, he still says that was too long ago. It doesn't count. So I must get through it. And then Professor, he'll say something like, after the second beer, I'm not a real gamer because I didn't beat Dark Souls. Right after the fourth beer, it's maybe you could have Professor hold your hand like you did in Bloodborne. He's thrown down the gauntlet.
Fair and square. You killed a lot of those bosses yourself.
That's right. You tell him that. Go on Twitter and you tell him that. I don't know what's going on. Man. I just got a little news flash in the corner of my beautiful new Mac. Just to throw it out there in case anyone wants to turn the channel. I have no details. It was a news flash. It looked like it was from Yahoo. It says 1 dead, 6 injured so far in the London attack. I have no idea what that's about. So I don't have the news on, and I'm not turning off Bears training camp to find out. So if anybody wants to look, that just came across. So that's what we're playing now. Professor, your audio seems cleared up. So why don't you give me a shot? Give me a story about ComicCon.
Yeah, it was okay. Every year it seems to go down in quality a little bit more than the previous year. And I think it's because it becomes more Hollywood. I used to go to Comic-Con when it really was just comic books, and every year it's more Hollywood. It's and there's more events not only inside the convention center but outside as well. And that was true last year. I thought last year was the most crowded Comic-Con I had been at. But this year it wasn't as crowded, and I was looking for stats to see how many people had attended, because I think last year there were 130,000 people, and it didn't look like there were that many this year. So I don't know. I guess my quick summary is, it's okay. Like if you've been to Comic-Con before, it's just like any other Comic-Con. It just wasn't as crowded, and there weren't as many activities outside of the convention center as there used to be. I think it's because the terrorism threat. In the past, you could just walk in with your badge, and right. I think a lot of people were getting color printers and printing their friends' badges and just sneaking in. But yeah, because this year they had their RFID badges, and you had to go through some machine. Yeah, and you had to like wave your badge every time you went in, and really it wasn't as crowded as last year. It was crowded, but not as crowded. Let's see, panels. Usually I go to television show panels, movie panels, but this year I decided to go to all the game developer panels and how to break into the game industry, so I could tell my students or give my students some tips and tricks. So those are okay. The problem was most of the people on the gaming panels were there were industry veterans that got their jobs in the late 90s or early 2000s, and I don't think that's the way they got their jobs. I mean, they were the first ones there. and they knew some people, and I don't think you can do that nowadays. But yeah, their number one recommendation was if you want to get into gaming, do create an indie game. All the tools are out there. It's free to create an indie game, or do some kind of mod, StarCraft mod, Fallout 4 mod, and that was their big tip for breaking into the industry. And you'll get noticed if you do something great.
That's interesting.
Did you guys see that that indie game that one guy in South Korea created that looks just insanely gorgeous?
No, I didn't.
No, what's it called?
I don't remember what it's called. Somebody just sent me a link to a video. It's just these gorgeous, glowing blue and green trees and waves back and forth. It's like this fantasy-looking thing. It's just utterly beautiful. And then you look at something like Revolution 60, and you're like, oh my god.
Oh, that's what I wanted to know, Professor. Did you notice a lot of, or did you pick up on any SJW vibes? Anything funky going on there while you were at Comic-Con?
Oh, totally. You know, it was kind of funny. I went to one panel where, who's that? The head of education for IGDA. She was there. What's her name? Kate something. Yeah. But she had her costume was pretty good. She dressed up as female Thor, and but she kept trying to steer the questions towards SJW issues, and the developers, it felt like, weren't really comfortable answering those questions, and they would always steer it back towards more development type questions. So I thought that was interesting. Huh. But yeah, let's see. The woman that writes, what was it? The female Captain Marvel. She was there, and she kept talking about gender fluidity, and you could tell that the crowd really didn't want to hear about gender fluidity in comics. I mean, it's a valid it's a valid topic, but the panel was on people that had never been exposed to comics before. I don't know why I was at that panel, but it was people that were at the Comic-Con that had never read comics, and she's recommending comics with gender fluidity instead of something like Watchmen or some of the DC graphic novels.
Or the two people who read FemThor.
Yeah, exactly. So it was okay, and then in let's see, I went to like 12 panels, and I think 3 of the panels mentioned Donald Trump in a negative way. So there was some Trump bashing amongst developers.
What a huge surprise! You should
have
worn did you wear your Trump hat when you were there?
I was afraid I would have been killed or something.
I'm just checking my BaconBits 6000 spam folder to see where my invite to Comic-Con went to. I assume it got lost there somewhere.
Well, you know, it's really interesting with everything that Professor Nick's talking about is that when you're saying, like, it was just a weird, bizarre question and trying to steer the conversation when the panel had nothing to do with that.
Right,
it's kind of a highlight, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where that's what they do. They hijack conversations and take it over with whatever agenda is they are, and it can be completely unrelated. And then if somebody goes, okay, you spoke, but guess what? Now I'm going to speak. If they can't have the floor, nobody can have the floor. And that's like the consistent pattern no matter where you go. And I think the best way to do that is basically, if they're acting like children, just start treating them like children. Talk around them. You go right about your business and you keep doing what you're doing. And as far as, I just said this earlier on Twitter today, but I was like, just go make whatever the fuck you're going to make. If you want to make your fiction about, aliens with 3 big tits from space that show up to enslave all the Mandingo black guys and take their white, their species, fuck it. You go make that thing, because they're not there to be satisfied. They're not there to be angry about something, be legitimately angry, and then you go, oh, excuse me, I'm going to fix this, and then they go, oh, you did fix that thing. This is not a standard customer or service issue, like they didn't put pickles on your burger, right, and you wanted pickles, and then you go, oh, you gave me pickles, thank you, and now they're placated. No, they come in there and bitch about the fact that there are sesame seeds on the fucking bun when they could see on the menu that there were fucking sesame seeds on the goddamn bun. You knew that shit when you ordered. Now you're throwing a fit to the manager, and you're like, but you knew that. The picture is right there. And it's like, you go, well, I could pick the sesame seeds off by hand. And then when the manager picks them off by hand, they continue to bitch a fucking fit because there was sesame seeds on the bun. And then they walk out of the fucking the restaurant mad. And it's like, you didn't want to be satisfied at all. You just wanted to be mad.
You just want to complain.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd be surprised in the 10 years that I was a bartender how often that kind of shit happened, Oliver.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. And so at the end of the day, it's like, look, buddy, do you want your burger with the sesame seeds or not? If not, okay, that's fine. I'm sorry that I could not serve you in the way that you want. There are 8 other different restaurants that may fit your needs, but we do this here. And if you want some of that, great. I will take your money and I will provide you with that thing. But if not, go about your business, and I'll leave you alone. I'm not going to chase you down the street. Nothing. That's the way that we need to be doing these things. Like, I'm sorry, I'm having to be in the mindset for this as well, because I'm on the eve of re-releasing a 5-year anniversary product myself for my book. It's been 5 years since it came out, and I just kind of looked at that, and I was like, I think I'm going to add a couple of new chapters in here and just give it a brand new polish past this time. And you damn right, there's some triggering shit in my book. Like, within the first 4 pages, like, somebody's getting gutted like a goddamn fish, like intestines everywhere, and blood and ass, and just it's insane. And somebody's gonna go, I'm triggered. I'm gonna go, well, tough titty. Like,
Is that out? Is that out now?
Yeah, the book's out now.
Tell the people where they can buy it.
Oh, you can jump over to Amazon. Just go look up Oliver Campbell and Rabbit in the Road. I know at least half the people in the audience now already know about it, but yeah, you can go and do that. And my product specifically deals with these topics. Like, one of the themes is women being treated by default as benevolent, never minding the fact that they are also completely capable of evil, just like everyone else, right? And it's looking at that, and I'm not going to shy away from those topics. I'm just going to talk about those things because it's a thing I've seen in the world. We've seen men and women equally do horrible, fucked up things to other human beings, period. And we shouldn't be shying away from those things. They're just like mothers can be very good parents, and fathers can be very good parents, but they're also very bad mothers, and they're very bad fathers.
Now, speaking of women being evil, do you think it's a coincidence that Milo Nero followed my wife on her birthday, July 10th, and 4 days later he was banned? I don't think it's a coincidence.
And not to take it into that department of shilling, but that was kind of the point, is I'm having to sit back and look at this stuff again, and I know that these are people who go out of their way to be pissed off rather than, oh, wow, this horrible thing happened, like, well, just as Daddy Warpig is saying, I bought this thing, I want to enjoy this thing, but now you're not letting me get the thing that I paid for. And then once he got it back, then he was satisfied. These are people who never bought the thing in the first place. It's like a vegetarian or a vegan going into a steakhouse and then bitching about what kind of barbecue sauce you serve or don't serve on the steak that they weren't going to fucking order. It's like, well, wait a minute. Oh, it's like maybe we could have more barbecue sauce choices, but you could have fucking buy anything here, mister. No, I'm just looking. Man, get the fuck out of here. You go to the other table. Hey, do you want more sauces? You're like, actually, that would be a decent idea. Okay, we'll look into that.
I'm dealing with similar issues in a different venue with science fiction and fantasy conventions that just had SJWs throw a fit about a panel about pulp magazines from the 1930s and 1940s. They were one of them was called Racy Tales, one of them was called Spicy Tales, and one of them was called Oriental Tales. And so they made a panel that referred to the name of the magazine as Oriental Tales because it's about a magazine called Oriental Tales, and the SJWs lost their shit. They don't read this magazine. They've never read this magazine, but they lost their shit because it used the word Oriental, and that's a bad word. And so they the organizers of the convention gave in and took away the name of the panel. And they might actually cancel the panel. And you're just like, guys, that is the wrong approach. You can't give these people an inch. They will just keep on pushing and pushing and pushing. Sooner or later, you're either going to have to let your entire convention be run by them, or you're going to have to push up back and say, fuck off out of here. There will never be a middle ground with these people, ever.
No, you can't apologize either. Once you apologize, it only gets worse.
And along the same lines as Oliver, I don't know, I've mentioned this a couple of times on Twitter, but I'm writing my own tabletop role-playing game. And I have decided that right out of the gate, I need to let people know this is not a game for SJWs. This is not an SJW role-playing game. And so the motto of the game, the subtitle of the game, is this is an action movie role-playing game for wrong thinkers, gun nuts, and the politically incorrect. That's going to be right in the middle of the cover, right below the title of the game, to let people know if you're part of what Clint Eastwood called the pussy generation, if you're a social justice warrior, if you are easily offended, this is not the game for you, because it's not going to stop them from bitching. It's not going to stop them from, complaining. It's not going to stop them from trying to disqualify or deplatform me. But at the same time, it lets them know I already know who they are. I already know what they're going to complain about, and I already know I'm already don't give a shit.
I think the bigger picture of really what we're describing here, and it's a phrase I've not heard in some years, probably a decade now at least, but it always comes back to caveat emptor, buyer beware. And these are people who do not, in practice anyway, they do not believe that they have to subscribe to the idea of buyer beware. And I think that's actually causing catastrophic harm to our creative industries as they would be, just across the board. But it's been a very slow pushback, as in people going, wait a minute, these people are always going to be mad, and there are people who are capitalizing on the fact that they're mad and try to stir up a big ruckus, and they're using that to actually push content sales. Just like, well, let's go right back to Day 6 today.
They
with
demand everything catered to them. That's what they demand. Everything catered to them.
Right. And the thing that really made the whole All Lives Matter thing stick out to me was sitting here thinking, and I was looking at this, of course, as a journalist and someone who has to interact with the public, and I was going, they knew exactly what the fuck they were doing. They knew that it would piss those people off. This isn't the first time that they've been pissed off at them, so it's not like this thing wasn't on their radar. When they first, what was it, last year, and they talked about mechanical apartheid, and these people blew a fucking gasket. So obviously they're on their radar. They knew that they would get that response to that content, and they went ahead and did it, and they're perfectly comfortable. If they didn't think that they would get a response like that, or if they thought that they would get a response like this that they didn't want, they would have never gone through with it in the first place. That's how these things go. So now the outrage culture is getting played to generate sales because they're putting their product in front of people and going, well, look at what these people did. And I don't think SJWs realize that for every 100 people that they're parading these things in front of, there's somebody who's watching them, following them, and is very silent and completely disagrees with them and is going, I didn't know about this thing. I'm going to go buy it now. They'll never say a damn word about what they're into or where their interest lies, but the money generation comes from somewhere, and it's coming from people who don't agree with you. They want that very product. And at the end of the day, if people did not want this shit, it would not sell. It's just basic marketing dynamics here.
You remember I was watching a movie the other day and I was thinking about this in the 80s because I was bored. I got through the Lethal Weapon. I haven't seen them in I don't know a decade probably. So I got through the first couple and I realized that Richard Donner back then, if he wanted to get one of his little liberal jibes in, it was pretty quick and then it was out. Right? It wasn't so in your face. It was Oh, one of the characters was wearing a pro-choice shirt. One in the second one, I think, for like 2 seconds. And then in the first one, it was the "Don't eat tuna," because if you guys are as old as me, you remember the big dolphins getting caught in tuna net thing that went on in the early '80s, '82 or whatever. And so it became kind of a cause celeb for a while. So they did have they definitely had their little messages, but it was quick and it was, let's not alienate 3/4 of our audience. Let's make a little quick point here and then get back to the movie or the game or whatever in that case. But they don't do that anymore. Now they're not content with that quick little punch. It's got to be 30 minutes, 40 minutes. It's got to go on and on or be the whole theme of the thing. How many shows, Daddy Warpig, did you watch last year where you were like, oh, this looks interesting. Oh, the whole thing's about global warming. Again.
Yeah, I watched the show for 3 seasons before I had to get the hell out of it because it was all about that.
Wayward Pines. Wayward Pines?
Wayward Pines. They just finally shot it in the head at the end. It was just like, I'm out of here.
They got down to some leftist stuff really fast in that one. But yeah, you know, I would just, I don't mind a little message here and there, but I mean they somehow got so heavy-handed that it's some of the stuff's just unwatchable now or unplayable.
Was a great little time travel sci-fi show until you just sometime in the 3rd season I just finally got sick of all the preaching about how corporations are going to take over the world. I'm like, well, I mean, I hate to tell you this, but corporations didn't take over the Soviet Union. Corporations didn't take over China. Corporations didn't take over Cuba and Venezuela. It was kind of something else.
I think Trump took over Russia, right? He's got the emails from that's what they told me. So, what do you are you looking forward to anything? I'm curious about your take on this, both of you, all 3 of you. What do you think about the Lethal Weapon show coming out?
Oh, the TV show?
Yeah.
That'll be shit.
It'll be shit? You have no hope at all, huh? But it's got a Wayans brother in it. It's got to be good.
But you really want to hear what I think about that?
That's a reboot of the Mel Gibson one, right?
Yeah. Who was it? Who's
on.
it? Marlon Wayans? Which one?
You really want to know what I think about the Wayans brothers?
No, not really.
I loved In Living Color. They were awesome in Living Color. That's my entire opinion about the Wayans brothers.
Well, you know, it's really frustrating actually to sit back and watch or to look at that stuff, just the Wayans brothers in general, and realize like they really push the envelope on topics that people would cover.
Oh shit,
in
I was
comedy,
wrong.
especially publicly. Strangely enough, like they would talk about white and black issues and all kinds of stuff like that on In Living Color, but they would also make fun of themselves. I think just in general, like, what was it, like the highly educated prisoner skit that Damon Wayans would do, right? Where he would use all these huge big words, you know, trying to convince people that he was much smarter than what he actually was. That shit's funny, because I've seen that guy. I'm like, I know exactly who that guy is. I've seen him on the street before. Like, what the fuck is this? And within Living Color, I guess that's kind of a symptom of the same stuff we're talking about. There's no fucking chance in hell that any of those skits done then could be done today in our current social climate. Oh no, people would lose their damn minds. They would go crazy over that. When our comedians, the people whose job is to offend us, that is a comedian's job. They offend people, and we laugh at these things. And now they're going, fuck this, and they're walking off.
Yeah.
And now the world is becoming a little less funny every day.
I defy you to sit down and watch, say, 6 episodes in a row of Married with Children, and then you'll sit there and you'll say, oh, they couldn't say that today. Oh, they'll never say that today. Oh, they couldn't get away with that today. Oh, they couldn't get away with that today. That's how bad it's gotten. Most of those shows couldn't even be shown anymore.
Yeah, because that was the whole damn show. That was Married with Children. He walked in, within 5 seconds, he had his hand in his pants, and we're all like, that's my boy.
Right. I was watching it today, and I was thinking to myself, oh my god, it's been 5 seconds. I already saw fat-shaming, misogyny, I get all the code words are covered in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you miss me, Peg? But everything so far, Al. So, all right. I don't know if that was a Wayans, but anyway, I wanted to ask you one more question before I let everyone go. There's a show on Netflix. It's a Netflix original, and since we're all 80s guys, it definitely has that vibe. Stranger Things. Have any of you seen that?
Oh, hell yeah.
I haven't.
You've seen it, Warpig?
But my
course.
wife quit fucking bugging me about it.
Oh,
So like I
okay.
said, I have to watch it. She's
It's-
been getting. I mean, you got to see this Stranger Things. I'm like, but shows, things you like to watch. I don't know. Like it's one of those things. So which basically means I'm gonna watch it.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah, you're gonna watch it. Yeah.
I'm gonna watch it because my wife's gonna make me watch it.
Yeah, that's that Jules thing. My girlfriend's a vegetarian, which of course means pretty much I'm a
Yes.
vegetarian.
My girlfriend's a vegetarian, therefore I'm a vegetarian. My wife watches it, therefore I will.
Yeah, I love Stranger Things. I wrote about it on my blog. We did a show on it on my podcast. So yeah, Stranger Things is awesome. You watch the first episode. If you hate the first episode, you'll hate the series. If you love the first episode, you'll love the series. That's how it goes.
Yeah, it was. I saw someone describe it, and maybe it was you, Warpig. I don't know, but someone I thought summed it up really well and said it was Stranger Things is everything I wish 8mm was.
That was not me. My description of Stranger Things would be it's 75% Stephen King and 25% Steven Spielberg.
I should have said Super 8. I didn't mean 8mm. Super 8.
Oh, yeah, that's a good description too. Everything you might wish Super 8 had been but wasn't.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, it's a great show. If you haven't seen it, it's definitely something that you should catch up with and watch. I don't remember who recommended it to me. Kate got me into Luther for a while, but then she stopped watching it, so I wound up finishing it on my own. It was pretty good. I have to admit, I really like Idris Elba.
Luther, what's that about?
Yeah, what's that about?
BBC, it's a BBC show. It's a little bit, it's like half police procedural, half mystery, and there's sort of like a bizarre female Hannibal Lecter sort of sociopath thrown in the mix there. It's a very interesting show, and it was really good. It's really quick. I think 3 seasons, 3 or 4 episodes each, and then he was off to make some movies, so it was over fast, but really good. I still don't think he's James Bond, but I think it was a really good show, and I like him a lot.
What's this other show about that you recommended? The first one.
Stranger Things?
Yeah.
Sum it up, Warpig. You're better at that than me.
What, 75% Stephen King, 25% Steven Spielberg didn't give you a clue? It's about seriously? Like 1980s Stephen King that doesn't tell you like 95% of what you need to know? Do you read Stephen King? Do you even Stephen King, bro?
Okay.
It's about a small town and a bunch of kids, and one of their friends disappears, and this freaky girl with psychic powers appears from nowhere, and they're trying to find their friend and getting him back and try to figure out who this girl is and where she came from, and there's a bunch of freaky bad guys who show up, and they start doing stuff in town, and it's mystery and horror and, you know, monsters and all kinds of cool shit.
No, this is great. Is it still in its first season?
Yeah. It's pretty new. I don't think it's that old. A couple of months.
Oh, yeah, it's like a month old.
Okay.
You never take my recommendations, or you would have watched River when I told you to.
No, didn't I watch that?
Did you watch it? I don't know.
Yeah,
I know
I did.
Ruckus did. Ruckus always takes my recommendations. The rest of you. Warpig's got a backlog list that's about 6-7 years, so I know that's not going to happen.
No, I'll watch it.
I don't even know, man.
I know. I try not to recommend things to you because you're just backlogged with stuff you gotta watch. So, but I'm glad you saw that one because I really enjoyed it.
I had some asshole told me like 5 new movies I had to watch. I put them in a queue. I just was cursing the whole time. They're like, oh yeah, you need to watch The Shadow with Alec Baldwin. I'm like, oh yeah, it sucks. He's like, no, man, it was one with Alec Baldwin was good. I'm like, I'm gonna kill you. I swear to God, I'm gonna hunt you down and I'm gonna gut you.
You know what? I'm gonna throw this out too because I saw this bit of news earlier today, and I thought it's pretty good news actually. And I usually don't like remakes or reboots, but they are gonna reboot an underrated '80s classic called Pumpkinhead, which was really good campy horror movie. Kind of B-rated. It was directed by a guy who generally did horror effects through his career. I think he only directed 2 or 3 things. But I think it was a movie that would have been popular had it not had a stupid fucking name. Whoever marketing guy decided to put Pumpkinhead on a poster should have been shot.
Well, see, that's the kind of thing you can reboot. Something that was decent, not great. Maybe you can improve on it. There's no problem rebooting that. Rebooting like Casablanca, you're like, what the hell?
Yeah. Pumpkinhead is perfect for a reboot. I would also accept Chopping Mall.
Okay.
All right, folks. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. We've had you for 1 hour and 48 minutes. Oliver, you got to come back more often because you are fun. And
Oh, yeah.
been like a year since I talked to you in person.
Yes.
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 All right, next week, Nick Cole. Don't forget to look for King Ruckus's article on BaconBitsShow.com, and Oliver will definitely come back. Of course, that's what I said about Grums. I guess we'll see who yells at me between now and then. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. We will see you all next week.